I have a consulting firm. It's called Partner and Scale, and we work with our clients one-on-one in every facet of their business. It's probably the hardest type of offer to explain because we're working on client acquisition, operations, marketing, products, dispute rates, refund, everything you can imagine. But one of the most impactful, highest leverage things we first go over is their VSL. I don't like this slide very much. Delete this, I would delete this, and I would just have 12M plus on it. If you don't have one, you need one. And if you do have one, I can almost guarantee you, based on every VSL I've seen, yours probably could use some work. It probably sucks. This is me going through with one of our clients, their VSL, the arguments that they're making, the micro, the macro. And if you have a VSL or if you're making one, I promise you, the principles that we go over in this video will help you make yours better. I'm not by any means a world-class copywriter, but I've gotten very good at sales psychology. I've worked with the best copywriters in the world, and I've learned a thing or two about how to create a sales letter on video that sells. Before we dive into this, if you want me to personally help you with your VSL, like I am about to with Gus, just DM me on Instagram, VSL, and my team will connect with you on what it's like to be a partner and scale one-on-one client or a partner, and we can get working with you on yours as well. Enjoy the video, and I'll see you soon. Side note, this is actually coming to me right now. Do you mind if I put this review on YouTube? Because I feel like this would be a very good YouTube video.
I don't mind at all.
What's your Instagram? Let's plug you in right now.
Thank you. It's Gus Vidales. So GUS.VIDALES.
What I'll say, dude, is I feel like you and I do a lot of the same stuff. I think I just do it on a higher note.
Way higher note, yeah.
But there's a lot of people that could benefit from you. And so if you're trying to get in info and get to where you're making $10,000, $20,000 a month, Gus is a great guy to do it with. Okie dokie.
If you're watching this video, that means you're curious about how you can get more coaching clients from your audience with less work, less time, and more profit.
So side note, on this one, do a ... instead of comma. I'm going to go over some nitty gritty and some macro because there are a couple of what's called arguments in the VSL that I don't think were necessarily as clear or as strong as I would like. And that's what I really want to hit. But there's also a couple micro things like this ... is more of a lingering than the comma.
From your audience with less work, less time, and more profit. So the agencies are having to really hire anyone else.
The hire anyone else is something I would also drop. You want people to resonate with everything you say. You don't necessarily want to read word for word, but like without having to hire other agencies or go find more gurus that can, teach you in a group coaching call how to do the same thing that you've been taught 1,000 times, blah, blah, blah. You have this part done well, but you really want to make it sound like something that they've gone through before. And you really want to downplay the tonality.
And I've worked closely with some brands that you've obviously heard of, like Rumble Boxing that makes $85 million a year. Ideal Image, which I manage $1 million in ad spend.
On this one, instead of having all these here, I'd probably just I've done Rumble who did 85 million. One big logo, next big logo. Just a side note. Okie dokie, quick one today, guys. What I told Ollie on this part is I wanted him to go through and montage a lot of the Daily Bread videos so you could see how many times I've done a Daily Bread and that's per transaction of $1 that Stripe would take, which means my Stripe fee was 33% on every single dollar. I actually wanted to still be in this group, which I still put in daily videos every single day. Me talking to the camera, going through all the unsexy stuff of business, talking about what I'm struggling with, talking about what I'm working on. I still talk about what I'm building. I show screen share quite often. The other day we were actually going through a VSL that is getting scripted and my Ingling for. But you see that in that quickly is like, oh shit, he's done this. Like he's done a lot of those videos versus if I just had a lot of them on the screen, it just doesn't hit the same way. And so it's like dopamine. That's what I would like to see here too. Big logo, big logo, big logo.
Yeah, I've done this repeatedly and I host hundreds of my client wins inside of my IG stories.
Side note that this is very important. You see the way you're saying and you're tripping on yourself a lot?
Yeah.
So this is Meredith seeing how importantly I take speaking, and you can ask her about the amount of different exercises and such I used to have the sales team go through when it comes to speaking clearly. I actually am going insane as of late when I hear myself on video because I say and such a lot when I'm talking to a big crowd now, and I need to work on that. But right now I'm even doing it. I'm being pretty clear and sharp with how I'm speaking to you. I'm not falling over my words, and that's one of the reasons, beside the fact that I have some trustworthy authority, which you just instilled, the fact that I sound like I'm very confident in what I'm saying is the other skill set that you have to have in order to make this argument extremely effective. The tripping on yourself is totally fine. That just shows that you did this one cut or maybe a second cut. But if you do this 50 times or 80 times, I guarantee you won't trip on yourself. You'll just be on it. And so realistically, even if it takes you a full half day or day to record something where you're sharp, it's worth it if you're not tripping on yourself. And if you sound confident, and you just don't sound confident in this. And that's a big, big no-no. Cool.
Yeah. And I can confidently say that we'll scale your online info product business.
I like this. I would just say, when you say I can confidently say that I can scale your info product business, I would like to hear to or blank. I can confidently say that if you're doing less than blank in info, I can easily scale you to blank. From here to here. Otherwise, realistically, you're just not making people feel like it's necessarily for them. And they also don't have clarity on where you can scale them to. And so So it's like, hey, I can easily take you from 10 to 50. And then eventually it'll be, I can easily take you from 50 to 100 or 50 to 500 or something. I can say like, I can scale you 100% if you're doing info. And it's true. Like I've taken companies from 400 to a million and 180 to 2 and blah, blah, blah. But there's no clarity there. And the VSL has to show extreme clarity of what they're getting themselves into. It's small little things like that in the micro argument I would like to see a little stronger. Cool.
Got it. And if I have to take a guess, it's probably because you're doing what everyone else is doing. That's either following advice that sounds like just run ads, do a VSL funnel, post more on IG or TikTok, hunt for trends and sounds that are trending just to get attention. Some CTAs, but no real results.
Realistically, I like how you're spitfiring them, but I would also try to paint the story more like the guy who just says run ads or whoever says do a VSL, or like everyone right now is saying just post more on Instagram and TikTok, hunting for trends and music and everything like that to try to get attention. And I would probably even have like an example on the right of like being the desperate guy dancing to try to get views, that you really can't turn into money. Some CTAs, but no real results doesn't make any sense. This one line is a little too ambiguous. The reason for this is to resonate with something that they've done or feel. I would try to make that stronger or that sense stronger in them. So essentially just like maybe you thought now I'll just stack a VSL on top just to find out the VSLs right now are really tricky. Ironically, as I make this, maybe you're one in the billion people trying to post more on Instagram and TikTok, and you're doing reels because everyone says you have to do reels, and realistically because you're trying to stand out or get views, you're making reels that are getting views or such because you're using hit songs, but you can't actually do anything with them. And so when people follow you, you're getting bot followers or fake followers or such, and you do a CTA that gets nothing for you. And so like you're really trying to point out all of the pain of like, okay, I have done all this and that sounds familiar. Does that make sense? And you're trying to make it more embarrassing too. You're trying to make these things resonate in like an embarrassing way, not just say that maybe you've done this before.
Got it. What I've learned specifically is that there are 3 types of people involved in every business.
Every business needs 3 people. You can't have one person that does all 3 of these. But you need someone who gets eyes. So someone who gets eyeballs. Number 2 is you have someone who turns eyes into money. Then after that, you have just the business side. So operations, HR, legal, finance, etc. You have a business guy, conversions guy, get eyes guy.
So you got the person who gets the eyes, and the second person involved in every business is that person who knows how to liquidate those eyeballs. And again, liquidation and attraction are 2 different skill sets. So in this case, you will be the person who gets the eyes.
All right. So general rule of pitching, you want to frame out everything, then you want to break out everything. That's a tweet right there, actually. I like that. I'm going to see, I still learn how to teach things every single day. Think about how I told you this. I said, every business needs 3 things. Someone who gets eyes, someone who liquidates eyes, someone who actually does the boring business stuff on the back end. I'm telling you the 3 things, and then I break out each thing. Getting eyes is blank, blank, blank. Liquidating eyes is this, 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 this. Versus imagine if I said, every business needs 3 things. First, you have to have someone who's a visionary. They have to be able to they have to be doing podcasts. They have to get eyeballs. They have to be creating content. They're looking at the short form. Their whole goal is just to bring people in. Second, you have to have someone who actually liquidates eyes. And you are going to get it, but it's not as clear. So you know the way, I'm sure you've seen the psychology of like humans can see the first and the last letter of a word and then know what's going to be there. You want to put that there, right? That like, this is what we're talking about. 3 people. These are the 3 people. This is a breakdown on each person. This is the one right now that you're probably going to be, and you always have to be. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Like a table of content in a book. Kind of see like the chapters and then you go into
Exactly. Show them the chapters, then write the chapters. Mehdi, you can, whatever you just DM me about this, you can make the point. She's trying to extrapolate the point a little further, and I don't know how what she said. SSC training 101, enumerate, then expand cheerleader accountability. Oh, yeah, that was the frame I made. See, bro, I've had this rule for a long time, and I didn't even realize it. But long story short, it's like, hey, the SSC frame we used to have at Educate, I can't remember it too well. I'm sure Mary can do it better, but it's, hey, I want to do 3 things for you. I want to be 3 people to you. Number 1, I want to be your cheerleader and count you up when you blah, blah, blah. Number 2, I want to do this, or your accountability partner. Number 3, I want to be your librarian. What I mean by those are, whatever it was, Mary, but and then you break down each role. And so that's what I want to see you doing here. Right now, you're breaking down each thing and going through. It's like reading a book without having any chapters and not knowing where in the book you are. Does it make sense?
Makes sense, yeah.
So realistically, it's gonna paint the picture a little more.
Successful business, sales processes, you will be the person. Are 2 different skill sets. Is that person who knows how to liquidate those eyeballs. And again, liquidation and attraction are 2 different skill sets.
So that's a very good argument, but the problem is you're putting an argument in your setup. So think about it as you need a setup, then make argument. Right?
Got it.
Yeah. This person, this person, this person. This is what this person does. This is what this person does. This is what this person does. After that, you say, the reason you're struggling is because you're trying to do all 3 things, which works when you're starting, but doesn't work when you're growing. So realistically, you have to pick a role to be in. And most of the time, you're going to have to be the visionary because it's your business. The problem is that creating eyeballs and liquidating eyeballs are very different skill sets. And creating eyeballs and running a business are very different skill sets. That's my argument. But I set up the argument before I did it. Right now, you're kind of putting them both in the same box, and that's why it's confusing. Does it make sense?
Got it.
Because
Makes
it's also
perfect sense.
pushed in the same box, it's confusing, but it's also not as impactful. The argument's not as strong.
So in this case, you will be the person who gets the eyes, right? And then the third person is obviously, you need somebody who knows the boring stuff about business, which is your sales processes, your operations, your automations, your team management, your organizational structure, HR, etc. And every successful business has all three. And you can carry all those three until now. Because what you're realizing now is that,
again, maybe a little more clarity, and you can carry those three out until $5, $10, maybe $20,000 a month. But eventually what happens is the business becomes big enough to where those three roles expand and get so far apart that you start with this scope and now you have this scope and you can't carry that anymore. And so you're painting the picture more clearly. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
kind of in this like catch-22 of business where you can't really do the same thing you've been doing because obviously it's not getting you any further, and you need to have those other responsibilities delegated, but you also can't afford them. So in the confusion of being in this paradox of business,
this is where I really wanted to give a majority of the advice. So on this screen, these numbers make no sense, right? You threw out different C-suite incomes, if you will, but like there's like, if you're watching this, you know you're about to give the C-suite argument, but they don't know what you're talking about. And so you just drew a squiggly line to 3 random numbers. And so remember that arguments you're trying to make are appeasing to the senses. And so you're vocally trying to appease to the senses by creating a vocal argument, verbal, but you're also trying to appease to the senses through imagery. And so realistically, the stuff on the slide deck needs to paint the picture that you are speaking. Does it make sense? And so now you're saying you can't afford them, but that like I can't afford them. Let's go back to it.
and you need to have those other responsibilities delegated, but you also can't afford them.
That's not very clear, right? But you also can't afford to delegate those responsibilities because that would be like having a C-suite. And a COO costs blank, and a CEO normally costs blank, and a CMO costs blank. Then you're building clarity. You're assuming people know the argument that you're going to make, but they don't. And so you have to really, like Dan Canadian, the best copywriters in the world, and to an extent, B2B is a little bit different than this, but you really have to simplify down so that people can understand what you're trying to say. And so realistically, don't make any assumptions. And Mary knows that I love saying it, like assume is making an ass of you and me. Don't make any assumptions that they know what you're talking about or the argument you're trying to make. You have to be very, very clear on everything. Otherwise, there will be idiots that are just like, I don't understand, and they'll click off. And so realistically, I would like to see you painting out the picture of like, I even said, you can start this way. And so maybe even starting with like a small business, this is your business, this is the scope of your business. But as you grow to 10, 20, whatever thousand a month, it gets bigger and bigger. And you can even show all the little responsibilities in that circle. You have to do this, 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 this. And eventually, because that circle's so big, you don't have the bandwidth anymore to handle all 3 of those. And you find yourself in this catch-22 where to delegate those responsibilities like client success or sales management or marketing or creating funnels or copywriting, name a lot of things that people might be thinking to themselves, like, I need to get this off my plate. To delegate these responsibilities, you need people who are good, who can grow the company, but those people are expensive. If you wanted to bring on a CMO, it's probably going to cost a blank amount of money. If you wanted to bring on a COO, it'll probably cost a blank amount of money. So you're in this catch-22 where you need talent, but you can't afford the talent that'll help you grow. But you have to grow in order to afford the talent. So what do? And that's when you can now transfer into the pitch. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
responsibilities delegated, but you also can't afford them. So in the confusion of being in this paradox of business, some business owners go for buying into mentorships or agencies with high retainers and trainings that only fix one thing for a high price and work one-dimensionally. So obviously, you don't trust these temporary solutions or freelancers with these high-end problems.
You see how it's getting a little foggy here?
And trainings that only fix. Some business owners go for buying into mentorships or agencies with high retainers and trainings that only fix one thing for a high price and work one-dimensionally.
I think the problem here is that you're trying to take a point that wasn't very clear to begin with and then put a non-clear solution attempt at it too. And so you're trying to say essentially, this is probably how you've tried to fix it before. I want to see the argument being made of like, when you start, you can handle all 3 of these responsibilities. But as you grow, the problem is those responsibilities become responsibilities that are really full-time roles of their own. You know, to be the person who gets eyes, you have to be doing this. To be the person who liquidates eyes, you have to be copywriting, you have to be making funnels, email sequences, nurturing sequences, creating a CRM, blah, blah, blah. To be the third and list everything out. And then you show that circle getting bigger and you say, at a certain point, you can't actually expect yourself to be able to do all of that. But you find yourself in this predicament, this catch-22, where you need to get bigger in order to afford the talent like COOs and CMOs and such. And I'm getting a little fast here, but I think you understand the point. Versus, but you have to also have that talent in order to grow to the point where you can pay that talent. So you're stuck in this catch-22, this paradox of not being able to afford what you need, but needing it in order to be able to afford it. So what do you do? So what you do is a lingering line, right? You're keeping people on the edge of the seat. What most people try to do is try to learn how to do everything on their own, even though it's like trying to put a Band-Aid on a broken bone. Realistically, realistically, joining another mastermind and getting into another group coaching call is not going to help you, because your problem is likely not lack of knowledge. It's lack of time. It's lack of focus. It's lack of the ability to do everything you need to be able to do. It's also lack of capital. So realistically, what you need people who have the talent and have the ability that can come in and do everything for you at a price you can afford. And the only way you're going to find that is by finding someone who's done all this stuff before and does it across the board for multiple people, so that they can still make the income that they deserve while helping you in the way you need, or something like that. It's called a problem transfer. Essentially, like, they've tried this before, but the reason it didn't work was because they were trying to fix the wrong problem, meaning you joined all these masterminds and stuff trying to fix a problem that you don't have, lack of knowledge. Instead, what you need to do is X. And so you're transferring the problem, which means everything they've tried before is now no longer relevant. So the objections of like, well, I've tried this before, aren't going to pop up anymore. Now they're trying to solve a new problem. So you're essentially saying, this is what you thought your problem was, lack of knowledge, blah, blah, blah. This is actually what it is. This is why your attempted solution did not work. This is what you actually need to do. This is why it would work. Does that make sense?
That's so good.
I hope this helps. I hope you found something in this video that you can use as an actionable to take to your business. Again, if you want help with your business, if you want help with your VSLs, with your marketing, with your sales process, with your operations, CRM, you name it. If you want help with your info, consulting or coaching business, DM me on Instagram, VSL. My team and I will talk to you about what it's like to be a partner and scale partner, one of our clients that we work with one-on-one, or even becoming a portfolio company of ours where we take vested interest in your company and help you grow to the $1, $2, $3, $500,000 per month mark. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, happy hunting.